Zoom in, Vampire Diaries, Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, How to Contour Makeup, PlayStation 4, and Instagram. Zoom out. There's a 50% sale in IKEA and Home Center. I was just there yesterday because I was looking for something for the girls' bedroom. Zoom in. I have a huge pile of homework to do this weekend. Why did the teachers do this to us? Zoom out. I have a huge pile of quizzes to grade this weekend. And I still need to fix my son's costume before his musical next Saturday. Zoom in. Sherifa, did you see the new episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians? Zoom out. Sherifa Habibti, you were alive when An-Nasr came out, right? Zoom in. They're talking about who did what in the playground last Thursday and who posted what on Snapchat over the weekend. It's not really a conversation that I can take part in. Zoom out. They're exchanging 30-minute recipes and the best way to deal with toddler tantrums. Not really a conversation that I can take part in either. And there I was, stuck in the middle. Too young to be one of the adults and too old to be one of the kids. Because you see, the first time I stepped into a classroom, I had just graduated college. I was 21 and my students were 13. 2 years later, I started teaching high school and they were only 6 years younger than I was. I will never forget that look of horror on a student's face when I accidentally said fecus in class. But here's the thing, that even though I shared the same tasks and duties and responsibilities with the other staff members, I still had a lot with the students themselves, because technically speaking, we belong to the same generation. Now, researchers have differed with regards to when it begins and ends, but the most agreed upon numbers define Generation Y, or the Millennials, as those born between 1980 and 2000. Now, of course, generations aren't boxes, and just because someone was born at a particular moment in time doesn't necessarily define them or their personalities in any way. But again, most studies have shown that people born around the same time tend to exhibit similar characteristics. So who are we? Well, we're the generation that grew up with technology. We grew up hearing that we could be anything we ever wanted if we just worked hard enough. We grew up busy. We grew up with schedules. We grew up having to balance going to school, sports, homework, extracurricular activities, spending time with the friends, spending time with the family, and getting enough sleep. The phones that our parents gave us made us feel safer because our parents then were only a phone call away. But it was those same phones that introduced us to cyberbullying. Now, overall, especially lately, there has been a very negative stereotype about this generation. Here are a few key words that have been used to describe us. Entitled, spoiled, addicted to their phones, lazy, miserable, and unfortunate. Now, the last two I have been personally hearing for myself, especially among older millennials, currently in their 20s and early 30s. A lot of them think that maybe if we had been born 10, 15 years earlier, we would have been more stable by now. But I don't think so. I think that this generation, and younger millennials more so, are at the right place, at the right time, simply because we are what the world needs right now. It needs the choices that we are making and the skills that we acquire just by living in this day and age. For example, millennials are also technologically savvy. Now, this doesn't just mean that we can connect smartphones to speakers, although we can do that as well. But it means being able to use technology to be more productive and efficient. We live in a time where if you still do things by paper and pencil, you're not getting promoted. fact that millennials have gotten used to doing things electronically gives us a huge advantage. Secondly, we're multitaskers. Now, this is both a good and a good thing, yes. Yes, we are guilty of texting while driving and of flipping through social media while someone is talking to us. But it also means that we can switch back and forth between different activities without feeling overwhelmed or distracted. In a world where everything is always happening so fast, millennials are more adaptable to a fast-paced environment. Thirdly, now, globalization came with a price. It is much easier these days to talk to people and connect with people around the world than it was 50 years ago. We were more exposed to different music, films, cultures, and food and books than our parents' generations were while they were growing up. Now, this fact carries with it the potential for millennials to be liberal. Now, I do not mean this in a political sense, but I mean it in the sense that millennials come to realize that it is quite possible to have certain things in common with people from a different race, socioeconomic background, religion, or culture. Take, for example, the photo blog Humans of New York. Access into snapshots such as these, into people's lives, can make millennials, and in fact make some of them, more sympathetic. Now, this carries with it the ability to realize that you can have something in common with someone from the country beside yours and someone an ocean away. Now, these characteristics align with what has been called the employability skills, or basically the skills that employers look for in the people that they're hiring, sometimes often called the 21st century skills, or the skills that have been deemed necessary for success in the 21st century. Today, no one gets a job just because they have a certain degree from a certain university. Employers are looking for much more beyond educational qualification and experience. Otherwise, the hiring process will just end at the application phase. Harvard University divides these into 4 broad categories. Firstly is personal skills. Employers look for people who are adaptable, who show respect to other people, who treat them with integrity, and especially those with diverse backgrounds, and they're looking for people who take initiative. Well, first of all, I want you all to look around you. This entire event has been student-led from A to Z. Secondly, I want you to imagine, to look at the amount of startups that have risen up in Egypt, specifically in the past few years. More and more, millennials are taking initiative to pursuing work that they actually want to do. And they're doing it in a time of extreme risk in the economy, and they're doing it with drive and with passion. Secondly is people skills. Now, the huge emphasis on sports in young millennials' lives makes them adaptable to working in teams, because eventually the cooperation between team members becomes professionalism between co-workers. The respect shown to a coach becomes the respect shown to a supervisor. Millennials they're used to working in teams towards a common goal. Secondly is communication. We've been practicing since a younger age different means of communication, things that were not possible in our parents' generation. Something as simple as being able to email teachers and professors, as communicating online, presenting yourself professionally, and learning email etiquette, something that our parents were forced to learn in the middle of their careers. Secondly, millennials are able to switch between emailing a professor on one app into posting something on social media for another. The idea of how to present yourself online is very critical these days, especially when they grow up and start joining the workforce. Thirdly is a applied knowledge. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on that because this basically covers the technical skills that they differ from field to field. This is basically the knowledge acquired through school and university. But overall, they have, employers nowadays are all asking for a certain command of English, especially with regards to reading and writing. What I do want to focus on is critical thinking. International schools, specifically these days, have been moving away from the old method of teaching, of simply shoving information down students' throats and having them recite it onto a piece of paper for a grade. This move has been moving towards emphasizing skills, with critical thinking being a top priority. Now, if this is done correctly and consistently across middle and high school and across various subjects, by the time they graduate, it would have become second nature to them. Lastly is workplace skills. Mainly that employers are looking for people who are problem solvers, effective decision makers, and who can plan and organize effectively. Again, millennials have been practicing this for a while. Take, for example, on a very small scale school project, to a wider scale of organizing an event like this, to an even bigger scale of making choices when it comes to university. We practice, unconsciously for the most part, how to define a problem, think of possible consequences before choosing and implementing a solution. Now, I'd like to zoom out for the last time and switch from the professional to the personal. You see, millennials know that the world is their oyster, that they know that the sky is the limit, because we've been hearing it our entire lives. But this has a negative aspect to it, because it creates a certain pressure to achieve. It creates a standard that if we do not achieve, we're failures. Social media isn't helping in this. The success stories and the big-time influencers who always like to portray a very positive image about themselves is bad for most people because we're constantly comparing ourselves to others. The result is that the most common questions we ask ourselves at this age is, what am I doing with my life? And am I supposed to know where I'm headed? Does everyone around me have a plan? Because you see, plans are great, right? I mean, plans are predictable, and it's very reassuring to know what you will do at what time and who's going to be there. But plans are also malleable. They're not set in stone. Now, I know that, I know that you are in a rush to have it all figured out, but let me assure you that no one has it all figured out. So I want you to imagine something with me. I want you to imagine that I just gave you a book. And in that book is everything that will ever happen to you. The story of your entire life. Inside it is everything you will do and when you will do it and where you will travel and who you will meet. And now you have two options. You read it or you throw it away. So if you read that book, you know that you will split your forehead open when you are 4. You know that your parents will fight a lot when you're 6. You know that you will not be invited to that birthday party when you are 8. You know that you will split your forehead open when you are 4. You know that your parents will fight a lot when you're 6. You know that you will not be invited to that birthday party when you are 8. You know that you will not win that race when you are 12. You know you will be bullied when you are 14. You know you will break your leg when you are 16. And you know that you will hate the way you look when you are 18. You know the good moments and the bad moments. Everything is right there in your hands. You can make a note when the good days are and plan to get your hair done. The day that that book tells you that you're going to meet someone special. Someone that will change your life. You know when the bad days are, and you can just write down when they are, and just never get out of bed. But then, you will never know so many things. You will never venture or explore. You will never know the beauty of walking out that door and not knowing what hits you. Because you see that the days that ended up badly started the same way that all the good ones did. So if you read that book, you would have never gotten on that swing and felt the wind in your hair when you were 4. You would have never learned that there were some things that you could not control when you were 6. You would have never appreciated that one friend who stuck around when you were 8. You would have never even competed when you were 12. You wouldn't have climbed that wall and saw the sunrise for the first time when you were 14. You would have never grown a tough shell when you were 16. And you would have never appreciated your intelligence when you were 18. But if you chose to throw that book away, you may or may not one day find yourself smelling salty ocean air, inhaling oak in a forest, spending time with someone you love, that even if it only lasts for a minute, it just feels perfect.